Well, welcome everybody to the cybersecurity session. Last year we did a panel on cybersecurity. It was focused more on collaboration between our technology partners and the information security community. This year we are focusing on, okay, this is a long title, this is ChatGPT. I should have worked on summarizing, but it's fostering community defense, cybersecurity joining forces with infrastructure, broadcast operations, engineering, and strategic partners for collective cyber resilience. Resilience is the key term there, right? So I'll start off with the introductions. I'll introduce myself and then I'll let the panel, and then we'll just dive right into it. So I'm Mike Kelly. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer. Also run infrastructure operations at the EW Scripps Company. I've been with the company for about 15 years. And then I'm going to pass it off to my esteemed colleagues. And I think what you'll see here is we've got a broad experience here. We got infrastructure, we got security, John on product security, and also from the vendor side. So I'll let John go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. John McClure. I'm a Senior VP at Sinclair, and I am also the Chief Information Security Officer and support enterprise infrastructure as well.
Good morning. I'm John Naylor, and I run product security at Ross Video. My mission is to ensure that our products are good citizens once they hit your networks.
All right, well, we'll kick it off. So I'll start off with, how about John McClure? You'll be the guinea pig here. How can different groups like infrastructure, broadcast operations, engineering, and technology partners collaborate effectively to enhance collective cyber resilience within a community?
Did ChatGPT also write that question, Mike?
So Wrong one. I'll summarize next.
Forgot the beginning of the question. No, it's so I think we're going through this interesting transition and convergence of how we work together better than we ever have. I think that historically, I think our fatal flaw was we looked at these parts of the business separately, and that now we're starting to look at them together. And I think whether it's the advent of we're communicating over TCP/IP or whether it's other kind of natural things that are bringing us together as the business, I think we've really realized the kind of the power of us collaborating better, and it allows us to move more quickly, more efficiently, more securely. The benefits are just kind of through the roof. So I think the biggest thing is the culture that we end up creating at those companies and the way that we evaluate better ways to integrate with each other, because none of us, well, I shouldn't speak for you guys, a lot of us, I don't know, I'm not adding 20 people to my team this year, right? So we're finding ways to do more with what we have, and one of those ways is to collaborate better and to really force multiply the other groups. So again, it's been really beneficial for us.
And John Naylor's got an interesting story too. Can you tell a little about your history, kind of how you've...
Okay, so why am I here on this stage right now? Well, about 7 years ago, I was working at Ross in the CTO office, and we noticed that a lot of RFPs were coming in, and suddenly, and it was sudden, they had a lot of content about cybersecurity, a lot of searching questions about our products and our processes. And so I proposed to my boss, Troy English, our CTO, hey, we should have a product security function where we basically figure out how to make our products be good citizens once they hit our customers' networks and make it easier, not easy, but easier to answer these goddamn RFPs. And he said yes, and I went and got trained as a CISSP, and then I basically rolled out a security function within Ross Video's R&D department. And what that looks like today is there's me and a cybersecurity architect working within the CTO office, and every single product team has got a security champion. We're basically following the MSSDL, the Microsoft Secure Development Lifecycle model. And so each product team that develops products has got a security champion who's a local subject matter expert, and they're also responsible for coordinating process improvements. A lot of this, I say there are three pillars of this. There's process, people, and products. And mainly it's process, and mainly it's people, and mainly it's also a product. So there's that's my split, three-way split on the focus on how we approach product security at Ross.
So real quick gauge of the audience. I'm very interested. Who here are in the broadcast engineering operations space? Who's in the IT?
No, you're not.
Who's in IT? Okay. Who's in cybersecurity? Okay. Who's in the vendor in technology? Okay, great. Okay. Yeah. So for us with Scripps, one of the things we've tried to do is, and I think John has a similar story in this, is we've actually looked to hire from the broadcast and engineering space, right? Because those are the people who understand the ins and outs of how the on-air chain workflow works. So we found a lot of success in that for creating closer alignment. But much like these guys have experienced, we've also evolved. I just recently took over infrastructure operations on top of cybersecurity. So networking, servers, cloud, endpoint management. And I think that's helped expedite delivery of services because you don't have multiple heads to go talk to when there's conflict. So it's been good for us in that aspect. All right. So what are the barriers of working together, whether they are real or perceived from these different groups?
Can I take that? Okay. One of the things that I've struggled with for about 6 years is incident response. And one of the final stages of responding to an incident is telling people who care. And, yes, we have a CRM. No, it doesn't list the cybersecurity practitioners as our customers. So I've got no easy, efficient way to say, hey, patch this, change that password, do this, do that, that will easily and clearly address all of our customers. And I was, earlier this week, actually, 7 days ago, I was approached by the EBU who'd, they'd employed a penetration tester to go and look at products from multiple vendors, and they found problems, and one attached to one of our products. And this was a very unusual case of a vulnerability that was kind of essential to one of our products. It came from the product. Normally, the vulnerabilities we deal with are the libraries that we've included, they're supply chain problems. But this was one that was ours. So who do we tell? We can't put it on our website because that just tells the bad guys. There is one of the gaps I think we have in our industry is that there is no media and entertainment CVE numbering authority. We can use. I've actually signed up to use CISA as a place to publish a CVE. But who's going to see that? Are my customers going to see that? I don't know. I have tried to foster a community using Ross Video's online forums, but I haven't had any sort of scale of sign up there. So it's a problem. How do we actually get the message out?
One thing to add to that, we talked a bit before, the MEISAC, Media Entertainment ISAC, might be a good space for us to look into that, at least from a, membership has to be authorized, approved beforehand. There's some things we could probably do to help collaborate more.
Yeah, and the MEISAC has got a free Slack channel, which is good. I mean, there's a barrier to entry to MEISAC to get the full benefits of it, but maybe they want to be a CNA. That'd be a good way for them to grow.
Where's Chris Taylor? He's not in the audience, is he?
He should be. We gave him drinks last night. I think he should be here. So Mike, it's a good question on the barriers to entry. And the barriers of the coordination and the collaboration, because I think most of them are, you hit it on the head, more perceived than actual. And I think a lot of it goes back to the kind of the most dangerous words in business, right? We've always done it that way. And, again, I think a lot of it gets back to culture and kind of the top-down messaging of how we're going to work and how we're going to operate as a business. And I think it's really easy just to keep doing what we did, right? It feels real comfortable. And there's risk, when we make changes, especially at that scale and potentially culture impacting. And I think we need to be very thoughtful about and cognizant of how those might ripple across, our folks and our missions. And again, I know you went through something I went through about a year ago, right? Where you take on this infrastructure piece of the company and it's exciting and it's great, but it's a whole different group with a whole different culture and a whole different mindset. And it takes time to kind of brainwash them appropriately or drink the Kool-Aid or whatever, technique you have. We just buy pizza. Pizza, seems to work. But again, I don't think there's not a strong argument for me on the barriers. I think that historically we've always said, don't think of security at the end, don't bolt it on. And then we create two separate organizations with two separate leaders, and then we wonder why they operate differently. And so, I think we have historically set ourselves up to not be well integrated. And I think that's changing. It's exciting.
It's definitely evolving for us. Like John was just mentioned, I just recently took over infrastructure operations as well. And, it's kind of diving right into the next question, which is, how do you overcome these barriers? And a lot of it is instilling that culture, right? Of it's not just cybersecurity. And, we always want to introduce friction, but it's more also about like resilience, right? And that's something I've been kind of rallying my team around from the IT side, the operations, as security is always the friction that slows things down, and, availability could be a concern, but resilience we all care about, right? No one loves incidents because we're up all night working for many weeks on end, tired, exhausted. But if you talk about it from a resilience aspect, I think everybody kind of gets it. And that's one of the things we've been working on, kind of rallying around the group for that cause.
One of the ways that we addressed that when we set up our operation was we really deliberately positioned our cybersecurity effort as the Department of No with a K-N-O-W, not the Department of No with an N-O. And that's kind of perspective shift really helps.
And that's acknowledging there is risk, right? We do take risks as an organization to move forward, and cybersecurity isn't there to say no. It's just say, hey, acknowledge these risks, understand what you're taking on, and then let's work together to make sure we, at least reduce those risks as much as possible. All right. Could you guys share some examples of successful collaboration between cybersecurity professionals and maybe the infrastructure, the broadcast operations?
No. We got
to say yeah.
That question, right? Oh, we did pre-script this, didn't we? No, I think there's just a ton of good stories. I think, some very specific ones is, so I've been at Sinclair a little bit under 3 years, and before I was there wasn't a CISO. And so there wasn't a lot of collaboration between these groups, and a lot of these groups weren't even kind of totally formed, right? Some were a little more informal, people doing the best they could, but less strategic focus on some of the groups. And that, so very early on, I think we tried to build a lot of allies and a lot of bridges, again, pizza, things like that, right? Whatever it took, I think, to kind of early on, a lot of, again, baby kissing and handshaking to create trust, which is ultimately what it came down to. And now, a couple of years into this, we're just seeing this incredible payoff on that we're in it together. And that, to your point, is the resiliency question. So we're not talking to them about cyber problems as much as we could. We try to stay away from that. We talk about business impacting problems, right? So we're talking about on air. We're talking about availability. We're talking about things that they care about. They really don't care about my CVE, right? They don't know what a CVE is. And nor do I need them to know what a CVE is, right? We don't need to go train everybody on CVEs. But if we're talking about on air, if we're talking about, again, general availability or our ability to change things quickly within the infrastructure, and we're seeing that now with a lot of the work we're doing with the broadcast and cloud teams as we're moving more of our play out to the cloud. So we're playing out 55 channels now out of the cloud. And we couldn't have done that a year ago if we really hadn't changed our mindset on how to work together. So I think we got a lot of great examples at Sinclair.
One example I'd call to mind is every year, Ross Video, we have a product planning session. We all travel to Ottawa and we sit in a room for 3, 4, 5 days, and we share roadmaps and, make trade-offs and figure out what resource allocation should be. And I had a session at the last May on cybersecurity, and I was the only guy who actually brought in 4 different customers, who basically, I ran a panel on cybersecurity where customers, there was Marina Kainson, who, if she were here, she'd be here, and from Fox, and, Gary Olson from, the Sports Video Group. And it was the best session of the whole week. People really engaged and got a lot out of it. And that was just, a great way to collaborate, to really bring our market and our customers into the room where we're making our big decisions for the year ahead. And one of the key takeaways, that came out of that was there is no air gap. Too often people rely on an air gap, or some of our engineers will wave problems away, say, oh, it's an air gap network. And I say, no, it's not. It takes one configuration failure to ruin the air gap, and then you're not air gapped anymore, and now your argument is worthless. So it was just for that alone, it was that was pay dirt for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's Stuxnet, I think, was air-gapped too, right? And that's what started this whole thing many years ago. So yeah, from our side, there's many examples. I think one of them, like I mentioned before, bringing someone from the broadcast space into our team was extremely valuable. We've been able to expedite delivery of some of the things. Remote access is a big concern I've got. You know, all these backdoor systems of technology partners getting into our networks. We got to address those and standardize it. We tasked one of those new recent hires from the broadcast into our team to focus on standardizing and shutting down a lot of access tools that were not really standardized and not secured. So that was a big one. And then the other thing is there's always this tactical and strategic approach, right? When an incident happens, you never let a good disaster go to waste. It's amazing the teamwork that can happen in that short period of time. Everybody's in the same foxhole together. You're all working hard, tireless hours, but that builds trust. I think as everybody sees the whole team is in it, you know, that's building trust. But then the more strategic piece of it, I like what John was talking about, was, you know, looking at how do we evolve our architecture to go from traditional models to more modern models with the cloud-based. So that's one of the things I'm really get excited to start diving into with my infrastructure team, to start looking how we evolve the business to do, you know, more modern approaches. So,
Mike, there's a good point earlier on John's question, because what you guys are doing at Ross is unique, because we're not seeing enough of this yet, I think, within the ecosystem of broadcast. And so, I mean, I think there's a lot of fantastic partners out there, but I think you guys are a generation ahead, probably, of where some of these other groups are. Just within your own product ecosystem of vendors and competitors and all that, are you seeing other ones spin up similar programs?
When I've forgotten his name, Dimitri was at Avid were really engaged. I think it comes down to people and personalities. When James Kane was at Grass Valley, he was really engaged, but he's not there anymore. So yeah, I'm seeing, yeah, there are people who want to do it. I'm not sure we're seeing the sort of the direction and the support from the senior management at other companies in our industry. Thanks for the compliment, by the way, John.
You guys are killing it.
It's been great. All right. So how can smaller organizations, those with limited resources, contribute to the benefit of the collective cyber resilience? I think it's one of the things we've talked about a bit before. We're trying to do, you know, more and get others, smaller broadcasters engaged. But John?
That's a really good point, because, you know, 75% of the companies at the NAB here, the vendors, don't have the resources to, say, go and get ISO 27001 certification. It's something that Ross is doing, but we don't like it, and it's hard, and it's necessary, but it takes a certain scale to be able to even do that. What about the small companies who can't? There is a initiative underway at the North American Broadcasters Association, NABA, who are talking about building a cybersecurity lab where, you know, smaller vendors could go and penetration test their products, or smaller broadcasters or you know, could go and penetration test or run cybersecurity tests on the things that they're using. So that may come about. And as I mentioned earlier, the EBU are doing something similar. They've got they've hired a contractor to do penetration testing. That's a temporary thing. It's not something they can sustain long term. So it's a real sort of concern, because we need those small companies. We need those vendors who are small, innovative, and solving problems of the future to you know, make a decent economy for us in broadcast. And cyber can't be, we can't let cyber be a barrier to that. So we need those enabling facilities and resources and infrastructure. And, you know, NABA's, you know, thinking about leading the way on that, and hopefully it'll be a success and it'll take off. But yeah, it's a gap at the moment.
I think on the product side, I think it's harder, to be honest. I think on the broadcasting side, it's a little bit easier. I think one is for these smaller companies to realize how they can get engaged. So whether it's through the M&E ISAC, the Slack channel, even if you're a non-paying customer of the ISAC, you can still join the Slack channel. We've got some unofficial little communities we've built. I know you've built some out where you live, and I've built some out where I live. And there has not been one partner that I've worked with that has said, no, I won't help you. I mean, I know you and I have talked on a Saturday sometimes. Hey, have you seen this weird thing? I'm seeing a thing. And I really feel like we've got a really good community that wants to help each other, and that I've never been approached by a smaller broadcasting company or a smaller partner that I haven't been willing to give them the resource, help them escalate tickets with vendors. I mean, you name it. And so I think the mentality is surely, we know it's a team sport, cyber, and that we're in it together. And so I think there may be smaller companies that don't realize we're as willing to be on the same team. I think they just need to get engaged, and I think that'll help.
Yeah, I mean, there are groups. TV News Check for many years have hosted a retreat. One of the first things we did, I mean, gosh, was that 7 years ago, I think? 7 years ago now. And the intent was to bring a bunch of different broadcasters together, ones with a lot of resources, some that don't have as many resources maybe. And again, as John mentioned, it's a collective cyber defense. We are an open community. You know, we want people to get engaged. I guess you'd be surprised maybe that, you know, we do like to collaborate. We like to talk. We may be nerds in the end, you know, but cybersecurity, it's really therapeutic. I think a lot of times you're just, you know, getting stuff off your chest. So it's a very open forum. There are informal networks, as John mentioned, looking for your local communities. There's Information Security Systems Association, ISSA chapters all over. I sit on a board in Cincinnati, where we try to keep, you know, communities involved. So there's plenty of things out there. And if anybody wants to get involved, you know, just reach out to any of us on the panel here. We're all kind of members of the same groups within our industry. Okay, so we're going to bring this home here. Looking ahead, what trends do you foresee in community cyber defense going forward?
I'll talk slow, John. You're thinking. I see it. I think what you're going to see is some of the continued trends of cyber and infrastructure continuing to combine. I think that'll be an interesting trend that, again, creates efficiency. Hopefully it creates our ability to move quicker, be a little bit more agile. I think it reduces friction across groups. I think that's very positive. I think you're going to continue to see that natural evolution and convergence, which I think is really popular. I think that as well, just culturally, as companies continue to struggle with I'm not going to get 20 new heads this year, and I'm not going to get 20 more $million, that I'm going to have to find ways to operate more efficiently, and that trend of collaboration and the team sport will continue to foster. I think also that where I think we've done poorly in the past, and I've talked about this on other panels, is that, to your point, we're kind of geeks up here. Not sure how we all ended up in our roles, but that we as security leaders also are I think doing a lot better in not talking tech all the time. And I think that's been a hindrance to us working well with the business. And I think we are evolving as leaders and as security professionals and realizing how to communicate with the business about the business. And I think that will also continue to trend that direction, I hope, and that will continue to foster better collaboration. I hope so.
I'm going to answer that question with 2 points. And they're interesting because they're completely opposite to each other. I think that's one trend that we'll see is cultural. We're going to see increasing awareness about cybersecurity just through in normal life. People who have nothing to do with broadcast or anything are becoming more aware about all the phishing attacks and other problems that are out there in the world for cyber. And then the other trend that we have to mention is AI. AI for good and AI for evil. It's going to be an arms race between the defenders and the attackers using AI to enhance their capabilities.
Yeah, from my side, I'm really hoping to see increased collaboration and really getting, especially our industry, more involved in actually some of the threat information sharing. A lot of it's informative, it's tactical, sometimes it's strategic conversations. but I'm hoping to see more threat intel sharing because that's really what will help us defend our networks. And I only see that increasing with your point on AI. I mean, we've definitely seen a lot more attacks at scale that are probably faster evolving than they have in the past. So I think we've got to get better at getting faster to working together, collaborating, and sharing threat information specifically so that we can just all raise our collective defense. We left 5 minutes. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to? Okay, here,
Thank you. So I'll continue on the topic you just talked about, brought up as AI. So it's being used from the attacker side of it, but what are your thoughts, or put some color on how it can be used to defend, how AI can be used to defend, and what are some of the ideas that come to your mind?
There are products already out there, or services out there, that you can install these defense systems on your network and train them on what normal network traffic looks like, on what normal, LDAP accesses look like, on what normal usage it looks like, and then turn them on to monitoring mode, and they will flag things that look spurious. So it's already out there. Our host last night was
Threat Warrior.
Threat Warrior, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we're going to see that, and we're going to see that built into products, and we're going to trust our vendors to go do good stuff, right? Sinclair is not going to go build a cybersecurity product, but where I'm really excited about it is on the analysis side. So historically, I've had a really good CrowdStrike guy, and I had a really good DLP guy, and I had whatever. But AI can hopefully empower all of them to raise the ability that we have consistent analysis across all of the different platforms, and having AI help empower those analysts to get to decision-making processes faster. So that's where we're hoping to see it.
Yeah, I mean, exact same thing is the way I look at it as product, right? We're not going to build a product, but it'll definitely make our people more efficient, more effective. Probably do the sexier parts of, honestly, cybersecurity. Blocking and tackling is not fun, but you let the products do that. The threat hunting side gets the more interesting thing. And I think that's the part there's underlying threats that are sitting within a network. That's the possibilities I'm hoping that these, we're seeing it already in some of the products, to be honest. We've already leveraged it a few times.
Thank you.
Got a question over there.
So one of the things I see that I have to do a lot of is research for product and services from a transparency standpoint. What I mean is, like, they don't really give me what data centers they're connecting to, what protocols they're using, and it's really, really difficult to secure a network when you don't have that information. You almost have to leave it wide open and just monitor and track and try and hope that you don't block something or do something that causes it not to work well.
Yeah, we have every product, in order to be released, every product of ours has to have a so-called security context document. And the security context document is written for cyber professionals. It's not written for operators. It doesn't tell you how to make the perfect crossfade or whatever. It says, these are the ports that need to be open. These are the protocols on the ports. This is what happens if you turn the port off, whether you can do it or not. This is how accounts are managed on this product. Here's the secure the disposal guidelines. This is the privacy impact of the product. And it's all a lot of dense, useful information in a few pieces of paper. We don't give that away. You have to be a person with, somebloke@gmail.com will not get into our walled garden. We have a walled garden on it's a forum on our Living Live community page, where people who have a customer email address and an information security job title, they can get access to all those documents. And that's also where we publish our responses to vulnerabilities. So sign up for Ross Video Living Live. That's our community. And then email me and I'll let you in.
Oh, thank you.
I think that's it for today. So thank you, everybody, for attending the session. And if you, again, if you want to get involved in the community, hit us up afterwards.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.